be more careful.
Okay. Yeah, we have Vivian here, come from California.
Oh,
Yeah. So you think you come here in May to work around this area, right, Vivian?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Nice to see you then. Yeah. So you guys have the student has spring break this week, I guess.
Today is the last day of spring break.
Oh, today the last day?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jefferson County's next.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the children, we don't have after school until next week. How you doing, Ivan?
I'm good.
Good, you?
Yeah, I do work.
Uh,
My team is off next week.
wow. For whole week?
Yeah, they are. I won't be.
Okay. Yeah, Anand. Yeah, you do okay, Anand?
Yes, thank you, Thầy. Yep. We also have spring break here in Vienna for my city for this next week.
Okay.
I'm gonna miss tutoring the kids next week.
We don't have
No, I know. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm gonna miss not tutoring them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have fun. They enjoy their time for a week.
Yeah, they're good kids.
Yeah, let me share the screen. All right. So so your name is Jerry, right? Yeah. Jerry. Have you learned anything about Buddhism before?
Just recently got into it, so just like the 5 precepts, like both Baptists, the very basics.
You learned something? You read some Buddhist book?
Yeah, I watched a few YouTube videos.
Video clip. Okay, that's nice. And so how could we know our place? How could you know our place?
I've read and asked it a couple of times.
Oh, you came here? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh, okay. Oh, that's great then. All right. So too small for you guys? Too small. All right. Let me move down. It's better. Is it better? It's okay. More?
That's fine.
Very good or more? Good.
Maybe a little bit more. I need to go to the doctor.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's the fit to the screen. Yeah, we study about Ashoka. He was a first Buddhist king that spread Buddhism in India and other nearby countries. Yeah,
It was just the Ashoka holiday, like an Ashoka holiday.
Yeah, it was his birthday a few days ago on Wednesday or Thursday.
It was King Ashoka's birthday a couple days ago.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Ashoka Jayanti.
So where did you visit at the Sri Lanka temple?
No, I just saw that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know. Yeah.
They celebrated a lot in India.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of the Theravada, the Indian.
celebrate that. Yeah. So yeah, he's very famous one. He changed from the cruel one into the benevolent one, due to Buddhism. Yeah. So at first he sent his army to occupy or invade other country, but because that was killing so many people, so he changed his mind. When he met a young monk. Remember we talked about the hell on earth, right? That, I don't know whether it's true, but that's a legend. Okay. All right. So oh, okay. How about Sam? You feel better to read this passage, Sam?
Yeah, I'll read it. Through his edicts and starting there.
Yes, please.
Through his edicts, patronage of noble monks, and prestige, Ashoka helped spread Buddhism far and wide. Inscriptions indicate that he sent emissaries throughout the known world, including Greece, China, and some still uncertain destinations in Southeast Asia. Ashoka immeasurably assisted Buddhism's emergence, and Buddhist shrines and monasteries soon dotted the major trade routes in every direction from the religion's northern heartland, Indian heartlands.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, can you summarize, please? Yeah.
Just saying that when Emperor Ashoka became a Buddhist, he spread Buddhism and supported it, and he made monuments and temples and stupas and sent Buddhist monks around the world as far as he could to spread Buddhism.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see here. I think we had the map before, right? Let me show you. Get the map here.
May I ask a question, Thầy?
Yes,
Pardon my ignorance, but may I ask, it was King Ashoka around after the death of Buddha, or was it during the time when Buddha was teaching?
no, his time is more than 200 years after the Buddha passed away.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the Buddha was born in the 5th, 6th century BC, and the Ashoka is about the 3rd century BC. Yeah, sorry, let me Ashoka. Let me share with you the screens one more times. Right here. Okay, so this is the whole country that he controlled. For him, this is the stupa and the pillar that he erected around India. Yeah, and this is the he has various influence on different country, nearby country too. And he sent 9 delegation to different country. Let's see here. Yeah, anyway. And so it's cover a vast area. All right, so next one. Okay. Too small for you, right? Yeah. So 300. That is. That's better.
Yeah.
Very good. Just one page. Yeah, Mr. Kisson, you like to read, please?
The Emperor Ashoka's inscription are spread widely across the subcontinent, from Bihar in the east to Afghan frontier in the northwest, and almost as far as Tunga Bandara, near the Tamil country of South India. The distribution of these records gives some idea of the scale of the empire and the great power of its ruler, as well as describing Ashoka's personal concern for his subjects and for Dharma, a term in which the context of his inscriptions primarily refers to public morality, orderly conduct, respect for elders, and religious tolerance. They also describe his building of wells and rest houses near an inscribed pillar in Nepal set up to accommodate Ashoka's visit to the Buddha's birthplace at Lumbini. An inscription records that the king expanded the stupa Kamuni, an elder Buddha who lived many eons before Siddhartha. So it just saying, I guess that's, you know, how far like that map you just showed us where the different pillars were. So of course this is Tamil is the south of India, and it showed that the main influence of his Buddhist teaching was, you know, how to behave in public, nonviolence. And of course, we ban eating meat on certain days. So, oh, and that he put up the rest houses, rest areas. And
With the well, right? The well.
yeah, and the what, yeah, well, of course, fresh water, sometimes hard to find. So.
Probably that's the first ever rest era have in the world, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. So in Europe, do they have that rest era in Europe? They do.
Yeah.
Mhm. But I remember that back in 1995, 96, I went to Europe and have to pay when we go to restaurant. Right? Yeah, I go to the restaurant, I go to public place. I remember that I went to, I think, Notre Dame Cathedral, and they have the restroom. People work there. This is beyond my thinking. People work in the restroom. They yeah. Yeah, so we're so blessed, right? We're so blessed. It's so convenient for us. Of course, at the rest area we have some people there, but it's really clean. But at the museum, people stay there to work.
Yeah.
You've been in France? Yeah. Is that happen?
William is in Rome right
Yeah.
now.
About in England, in all the European country, the system are different. The same.
Everywhere except. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Vivian, have you been in Europe before?
Yeah, I think you said you were in Germany. I was
No.
in Germany.
I'm asking you. Have
Yes.
you were?
Yeah.
And where is that?
I went in 2012
Okay.
to
Oh,
Germany
really?
and England.
So in German, they don't have the speed limit. Is that right? Oh, no.
Right.
You can't drive recklessly.
No.
Most people don't go like insane.
Yeah. Okay.
Really like.
It also costs them $2,000 at least to get a driver's license.
Really?
Yeah, it's very expensive over there.
Wow. How about international driver license? They allow you to drive there?
Yeah.
Wow. It's so expensive. Is it hard? It's hard to take a test.
It's very hard. Yeah, no, my friend had a cousin. She was maybe 35 years old and she had to take the test over again and pay to have a teacher. That's the reason why it costs like $2,000, because you have to have a teacher, you have to get enough hours, and then you have to take the test.
Wow.
You
Okay.
can't have like Kirsten see.
Yeah. Okay, Vivian, you want to read, please? You can read this. Yeah, let me read you.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
April 7th.
Okay, I'll start with this picture of Ashoka as a builder with Buddhist sympathies is confirmed by archaeological evidence. A number of 3rd century BCE brick-built stupas can be assigned with reasonable confidence to Ashoka, giving some color to the legend of the Ashoka Vadana, or the stories of Ashoka, that he built many stupas. The most celebrated of these is at Sanchi, where there is also a pillar with an imperial edict and the remains of a hall, perhaps used for monastic assemblies. Sanchi was embellished in subsequent centuries, and the original stupa was hidden by later enlargements. Other stupas, for example, that at Amaravati on the banks of the Krishna River, have been reduced to little more than a circular mark on the ground, although parts of the first railing that surrounded the stupa have survived.
Okay. Yeah, so many famous stupa, right? Yeah, I went to India, but I just went to Bodh Gaya. I didn't have time to walk up Sanchi here. Sanchi stupa here. That's the spear famous one. The spear detail is a lot of relief, right? You see this? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, right before we build this temple, I told my people that yes, 2020 we go, we shut down. Right, I don't know when. They asked me again, but I don't know when we can do. Yeah, please.
Before the 3rd century BCE, wood was the preferred medium for building and carving. Due to the rigors of the climate, practically all ancient Indian woodwork has disappeared. Under Ashoka, or perhaps under his grandfather, Chandragupta, carving in stone became widespread. Ashoka's freestanding stone pillars, crowned by animal capitals and incised with inscriptions, were thus a startling innovation, especially notable for their burnished surfaces, which gave the sculptures a sparkling appearance in the bright sun. The pillars and capitals are made of the same sandstone, which was quarried and carved in eastern India and then transported over considerable distances. The technology for such undertakings was apparently brought to India by Persian craftsmen fleeing in the face of the advancing armies of Alexander the Great, who reached the frontiers of India in 326 BCE. So he pushed them to do more work in stone instead of wood, which is probably why they're still around to this day. Like if they were made out of wood, they wouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah, in China, even in Vietnam too. This in the past, people kept the Buddha teaching on the stone. It's pretty rare. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I read some story in Japan. Some Japanese monks they inspired the Buddha teaching, especially the Lotus Sutra, on medals, and they put on the ground. So in case something collapsed, people can dig out the Buddha teaching. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So when you love something, you would try to protect, right?
It's one thing I love about those outside the temple. They have the new life story of the Buddha on those big engravings out in front of the temple. I love those. I was telling somebody those will probably still be around like 200 or 300 years from now.
Hopefully it lasts longer than that.
Yeah, hopefully 1,000.
So here's the inscription. Yeah. That's sometimes they wrote in the we call Prakrit language. Yeah. So Sanskrit, Prakrit, they are similar languages in this ancient India. Yeah. Okay. So let's see here.
Yeah, Thầy, I have a question.
Yes.
As we talk about the archaeology of some of these, so when Buddha passed on, and how many years roughly the first gathering of all the monks, was it a couple hundred years afterward? And that is when the actual writings actually have written down. So
Yeah.
prior to that, there was no written archaeology that we know of that was written during the time of Buddha.
Yeah, basically no. During the Buddha time, in India they didn't have, in the past didn't have the culture for writing history for 1,000 years, and even they rely upon the Xuanzang, they rely upon some pilgrimage to write those kind of history. So during the Buddha time, again, there's no written language yet. But during this Ashoka time, they start to develop the written language, like the Prakrit, Sanskrit, even Pali. And officially, the Buddha teaching was written down in Pali in Sri Lanka during the 1st century BC. But I witnessed some monk, especially Tibetan monk in other country too, in other country. So some of them specialize in memorization of the sutra, whether it's a sutra or the Vinaya, that's been the book of precept, or the analytical books, collection of analysis or commentaries of the sutra. So many of them specialize in memorizing the sutra, and that's part of tradition that keep up with this type of teaching alive so many centuries. Of course, when people try to memorize something, they may miss here and there, but at least the essential teaching still retained there. Yeah. That was sometime, especially during the summertime, I get asked the children and young people here to memorize certain short sutra, like Metta Sutra and so forth. Like Vivian, when you were here, I think last couple of years, right? Right? For our children and the youth, yeah, they memorize some short sutra. Yeah. Okay.
The best preserved of Ashoka family capitals comes from Sarna. It originally crowned a pillar, the stump of which can still be seen among the North monasteries and temples of the site. The capital has 4 lions and was originally surmounted by a large spoke wheel. This wheel and the smaller ones around the base of the capital is presumed to symbolize the Chakravartin or wheel turner, a reference to both Ashoka, the ideal monarch, and to the Buddha, whose first sermon, the foreturning of the wheel of the Dharma, took place at Sarna. The lions are thus dual symbols, alluding simultaneously to the royal power of Ashoka and to the Buddha, who is frequently called the lion of the Shakti clan.
Okay.
Where is Sarna? Is that India?
Sana. Yes, that's where the Buddha first taught. Yeah.
What is the connection with the wheel turner and samsara?
Yeah, the wheel, they call the wheel turner. It's the 2 meaning. One is according to Buddha teaching that wheel turner does mean the Buddha, the one that start to teach. And that's what he called turning the wheel of the teaching. Another one is the meaning is that the virtuous king that control the world. Yeah, that's what they call about the wheel turner king. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Let's see Ashoka. Ashoka Hila. Right here, see at the line on the top here. Oh, right here. That's what they talk about here. Yeah, the four. Yeah, the four head of line there. It's pure detail, right? Wow, it's pure art. At here too. And this wheel is now belong to Indian flags. Right here, you can see here.
I actually taught the kids in tutoring about Ashoka last week. I told them about his story and how he became a Buddhist and what he did, and I showed them the Ashoka wheel on the flag, and I was like, "That's even on their flag now." They're yeah.
Yeah, see that they adopt from Ashoka symbol, the symbol of the chakra, the wheel turner. Yeah.
So do they recognize Ashoka as their first name?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, that's why they use this symbol at the national flags. Yeah. Yeah. So what did you tell them, Sam?
Pretty much like everything that we talked about. I was like, he was a conqueror before he was a Buddhist, and he took over a huge area. It was one of the biggest empires in the world, especially in the ancient world. But then in his last battle, he saw all the death and destruction and felt horrible, and he became a Buddhist and accepted the precept to never hurt anyone again. So he built a bunch of roads and hospitals and rest stops and planted a bunch of food and medicine plants and made it illegal to hunt animals in certain places. And I showed them the stupa with the lions and the wheel, and then I showed them how the wheel is on the modern India flag. Pretty much all that. They were good. They liked the story. I even quizzed them about it later, and they remembered a little bit.
Yeah, because of his influence, so many people in India, they are vegetarian. Yeah, you know, they classify people in four classes. So most of the time, the high classes, they would be pure vegetarian. The low class, that's the one that slaughter the animals. Yeah, kill sell trade animals flesh. But for the high class, they would not. Yeah. Anand, is that answer your question recently, Anand?
Yeah, I just trying to learn my own history here. So I was wondering about, like when Ananda, was he at the first gathering of the monks, or was he passed already as well when they did first put together all the sutra together? Was
Yeah.
he there the first gathering? That's where he get all the information down.
Yeah, he followed the Buddha for 25 years, and say that he could memorize anything that Buddha spoke. It's like to pour the water from one cup to other without losing any kind of drop of water. So he could remember everything from the Buddha speech. So that's why 3 months after the Buddha passed away, they convened the 500 monks. According to legend, they use their psychic power to fly into the cave. Yeah, yeah, and they decide. Ananda, he decide everything. After that, the other monk will approve whether he decide correctly the Buddha teaching again or not. So most of them, all of them, approve that, and that's the first ever Buddhist council. And yeah, by the first century BC, yeah, so they can convene again to start to write the Buddha teaching down in Pali. Yeah. And in the northeastern of India, yeah, they compile the Buddha teaching in Sanskrit. Yeah. Is that your question? Answer your question, and
Yes, and I also understand in our tradition. I just noticed that in Buddhism we chant sutras a lot, and the practice of memorizations or reciting the oral tradition, is that also because of the lack of the written language, and because we go back to thousand years before Christ, for example, and therefore there was no formal written things there. So that's why we have a lot of oral tradition to pass on to others, and that's why it's carrying on all the way up to now that we tend to have more sutra chanting to help with oral tradition, and it become our practice.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, that's good. That's what about. So in the past and up to now, they still preserve the oral transmission. But of course, in the time that they have print out the sutra, the people rely upon those type of written textbook now. Yeah. When it's time for us to talk about that type of printing, we can discuss about. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Vivian, do you have any question? That's all. Okay.
Although scripts of some kind may have been used in India as early as the 5th century BCE, the first securely dated writings belong to the Ashokan era, termed Brahmi by scholars. It was used for the inscriptions on prominent rocks and stone pillars in various parts of Asoka's vast empire. The illustration. Probably invented at the royal court explicitly for Asoka's edicts. The script appears to have drawn on Aramaic, a Semitic widely used through the Near East as a bureaucratic language. So continue. Just Ahsoka's era started inscription in a written form. I didn't realize that they pulled from Aramaic, but that makes sense to me, seeing how sprawling and flowing the language is in written too.
Yeah.
But through state building, everyone eventually through bureaucratic needs a written language to then bigger the nation, the bigger the writing.
So probably start from Ashoka periods. That's when they start to use the written language, and probably during those times, the meditation were inspired into the stupa or were written already, but not in official way. Yeah. And then you follow, right? You follow the passage, right?
Yes,
So that's why here this is the early time for them to develop the Sanskrit, the Brahmi, the Prakrit, and so forth. So that's one. Yeah. Okay. You follow, Jerry? You follow? You follow our conversation? You follow our conversation?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So
can I ask a question more about the language?
Yeah, please.
So during the Ashoka king reign, so the Sanskrit is the ancient language that we use at that time as well. Sanskrit, and then over the years, Sanskrit become part. I just want to understand that why in most of our sutra is in Sanskrit. Is that because when that is the time when we document during the era? Or was it document back in the days when Ananda was still alive, and we document all the sutras and writings and teaching of Buddha?
Yeah, here you see 3 languages were used during Ashoka, Ashokan Prakrit, Greek, the language neighboring. Can you see? Too small. And Greco-Bactrian kingdom and Greek communities. So they call Prakrit, not Sanskrit. Prakrit is Sanskrit, and later Pali are the similar
come from.
Come from Indo-European languages.
Bactrian is also the two-humped camel. Just in case you were wondering.
Yeah. Okay, so and then can you see the writing here? The Prakrit languages was inspired during the Ashoka times, but during Buddha time I think they have spoken Sanskrit language, but
Yeah, in the Buddhist time, from what I understand, they spoke like the educated classes spoke Sanskrit and the common people spoke Pali. But the Prakrit writing was like the writing that developed because in the Buddhist time, like you said, they didn't have a standard writing system. Like they had the languages, but they didn't have the written language yet.
but the Buddha spoke what do you call the local language, the Maganda language.
But yeah, try.
Tribal language. Yeah, Sanskrit is the main one, the popular one, especially for the Brahmin people. Then when they do the preaching and we do the prayer, the ritual one, they use Sanskrit. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the Pali one was developed later on. Yeah. Pali seems closely related to or Indo-Aryan Vedic and Sanskrit dialect, is apparently not directly descended from either of these. Yeah. Yeah, and then you follow, right?
Yes, I follow. It's fascinating to me though, just to see how the language and the timing of the sutra and how that all come to being written up and then carry on the passages, and then how that all relate to the Indian society, and then how Buddhism kind of like not fall, but kind of like decline in the Indian society, but then we still practice that a lot and carry that on over until now. It's all Sanskrit, kind of like the Latin language, but it's kind of different in a way. So that's kind of fascinating. I don't know enough, so I've kind of, this is some of the things that as we talk about it, there's more things in my head. I'm asking myself, wow, okay, so how is Sanskrit keep alive over 2,000 years, and then and the society is being, in India, it's all Islam and Hindu. In the majority of it now, is it because of the decline of because of politics, because of war? And that all that kind of come to my mind as I am learning about the history of Buddhism beyond the practice itself. Just fascinating me just to think about that.
So later on, so the Southern era, they took the one, they adopt Pali as the official language, a Pali Kenyan as official one, but the Northern one adopt the Sanskrit one. So that's why we have two set, mainly from India, two set of Buddhist Kenyan, the Sanskrit in the north, the Pali in the south. And the Sanskrit Kenyan was translated into Chinese, Tibetan one. That's the two main one, but it was burned down by the Muslim invasion during the 12th or 13th century at Nalanda University. So they lost a lot of valuable Buddhist sutra in Sanskrit. But like I told you that now some Tibetan monks, they retranslated from Tibetan into Sanskrit in India. Yeah, they have that kind of project.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
If I could add something to On's question, because this is a topic I like a lot. Sanskrit is like the kind of like the Latin of India. Like a bunch of modern Indian languages are related to it, and so that's also one way that it's still alive. But also besides Buddhists, Hindus also use Sanskrit. Of course, they have like a different vocabulary, but some of the words are the same, like Namo. And Namo is an interesting word because the master mentioned the Indo-Aryan and the Indo-European language family. Even English is actually distantly related to Sanskrit with like words like nam, like their word for name is nam, and then our word for name is obviously name. Like there's actually like they're very distant cousins, English and Sanskrit.
Yeah. So somehow Indian classical language has some connection with the European languages, right? Yes, in the way that they structure the grammar, right? Anyway, okay, so yes, let's move on then. You follow? Okay, right. Yes.
That's a side note before we move on. Do we see inaccuracies or conflict because they were translated separately? So like,
Wow, basically, oh, that's a good question. But actually, even they separate for 1,000 years. And when they compare together, for these two sets, the Pali one and Sanskrit, not much different. It's so wonderful. It's so fascinating. Yeah.
But there's a lot more in Sanskrit that is not in
Pali.
Pali canon.
And
So they reject, so a lot of the Theravada will, I don't know that the word is reject, but reject a lot lot of Sanskrit.
So basically, in the Sanskrit, in the Sanskrit canon, it covers all or most of the Pali canon teaching, and it developed more in different path. I mean, it developed. It have all the different sutra that in the Pali one would not have, but most of them contain the sutra within the Pali canon. That's why when we translate from Pali into Vietnamese, from Chinese into Vietnamese, we make that kind of comparison. And most of the time, there's so much more.
Yeah.
It's not much difference. The difference because the that the style of the translator, how they translate that message according to their knowledge. But the meaning is still carrying the same. It's so wonderful. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to like look at the Pali canon through a couple different translations. And then you can kind of see where there's a little wiggle room for interpretation, but not much.
You know that what to call here? Let me type for you here.
And I think a lot of it too is because a lot of the words don't directly translate. So like Dukkha.
yes.
doesn't really have a direct translate.
Yeah. There's a continuous thread.
Okay, here, if you go to this, this website? Yeah, if you go to this website, it's all kind of sutra. It's called Tipitaka here. And you can find the sutra by authors, by title. Look at here, ABC here. You see that if you look for, let's say, for Ananda right here, his story, for anger and Anika impermanent here, it's all kind of teaching right here. They have translated. It's really convenient. Yeah. You know, right, Miss Trish? You know this?
Yeah, no, it's when I first started studying with the Reverend Nanda, he told me that I needed to go read the Pali canon and not really knowing exactly. I was
ask.
I know. I was like, oh well, no, I'm a great reader. He told me not to worry about the Vinaya or whatever. I was like, no, I'm a great reader until I started getting in there and realizing like, oh, this isn't something you just like pick up and start reading. Like you really need some guidance through the library and not.
So here we have the general author name.
Yeah.
Bring your bookshelf with you.
Mhm. Sam, you know this website, Sam?
Yeah, I love that website. I copy a lot of stuff from it.
Yeah, there's many short Buddhist sutra there. Vivian, you know this website? This is more in Pali. They translate most of the sutra in English already. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes.
There's a website I use sometimes. I put it. It's called Wisdom Library or wisdomlib.org. That you can use to translate Sanskrit and Pali words. Find the definitions for Sanskrit and Pali words too. Sometimes when I don't know, like if I'm reading an original one, you can, like if I'm listening to one, like a chant or something, you can find out what like the chants and sutras mean on this Wisdom Library website.
There's many websites that contain both Buddhist sutra in Pali and in Sanskrit. Yeah. So Vivian, you follow? Right? This is so many. That's why I used to tell the non-Buddhists, if you want to study Buddhism, you may spend whole lifetime to study. Even for me, I could not study all, a thousand. And remember, every day the Buddha taught monks, nuns, lay people, and even celestial beings too, every day. So he just rest, not slept 1 hour per day. Yeah. So
Like, where does the beginner start? It looks like there's so much.
no, but you can follow some basic teaching of Buddha, right? The Point of Truth, Eightfold Paths, and so forth. So these are the basic teaching, and you can grow from that.
I found if you're interested in studying the Pali Canon, I found Bhikkhu Bodhi is a very well-known English translator. So he's got ways to guide you through it, and then you can also like reference his teachings and stuff like that. Was how I navigated.
Can you see this now? See that? You see how, yeah, see that, Vivian? This is a chart. The Pitaka, that means 3 baskets. The first one, the Vinaya, that means the basket of the precept, the Sutra basket, and the Abhidhamma, that means the commentaries one. That's just why it's thousands of sutra for you to learn from.
Because sometimes you want to read, you would want to read one of the suttas and then, have one of these scholars tell you which commentary to go read.
Or if you want to find out again the title, like when we talk about anger, about anicca, impermanent, click on here. So they make this type of alphabet letter order for you to read them. Okay. All right. So right, Jerry,
Hello, thầy.
yes.
I just want to have one more question and then I'll quiet. When you practice, for example, go to a temple, at your temple, and we read the chú, right, thần chú, are those typically always in Sanskrit? And so if I go to a temple, let's say Mahayana, we go to Theravada, when they actually recite and they do the sutra, but in the thần chú, they also do that in Sanskrit, or that depends on if you read a Pali or you read, so I'm just kind of curious of that. When we actually recite the thần chú, would that be in Sanskrit always, regardless of where you go?
Yeah.
Which church or which temple you go to?
It's mean mantra. We talk about mantra. Yeah, in Theravada tradition, they would not decide much about mantra, right? So and you know what's mean mantra, right? What they call mantra here.
They chant the suttas.
You chant the sutra more.
Okay. Yep.
That's mean mantra. So that's why we're different. The Theravada and Mahayana, that's a bit different.
That's one of them, yeah.
Yeah, the idea one, but the core teaching is still the same.
Yeah,
But how we practice may be different because it's 1,000 years apart. But still, depend upon the karma, depend upon the needs of people. That's why Buddhism spread everywhere. Yeah. So if you go to Vietnamese or Chinese temple, yeah, it's similar. But if you go to Thai temple, Sri Lanka, and so forth, yeah, they have different set of sutra.
yeah, and they call them sutta.
Yeah,
There's
sutta, not
there's
sutra.
no R in it.
Yeah.
The Tibetans use their own language too. Like I've visited the Tibetan temple before, and Pali and Sanskrit are similar enough that I can kind of understand and recognize words in both. But the Tibetan chanting, I don't understand it at all. I mean, I still enjoy it because it's holy, but I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
And things. And
Yeah, focus on the
Yeah.
on the mudra. You follow, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. So can you read this? A reference?
A reference to the 1850s found in the writing of Chinese program Zhuangzhang. His comments in the contents of these books suggest that by his time, the 7th century CE, the ability to read the script had been lost. It was not until 1834 that James Prinsep, who headed the British East India Company Mint in Calcutta, took an interest in early coin deciphered one of the Soviet edicts. In doing so, he transformed the program from a legendary figure into a tangible personality, and thus inaugurated a new era in the study of ancient Buddhism.
Yeah. You understand the point? You know who is Xuan Shan? You know?
No.
You
Well,
know?
there's a really amazing movie. Have you guys, you guys need to watch the movie.
Journey to the West.
Yeah,
You read this?
Oh, well, there's a newer one. You can look it up on YouTube. It's Chinese. Oh my gosh, it's really well done. I highly recommend it. And I don't even like movies is in general.
Oh,
I don't
you
watch
heard about that? Yeah, Monkey King.
Oh, Sun Wukong. Oh, that's another thing we talk about all the time in tutoring, actually, because the kids love monkeys. And yeah, I told them about that story and how it's a Buddhist story because Faxian the monk was bringing the sutras from India to China. He went from China to India and back.
Yeah,
I love
this is legend. One is real story, real historical record of Xuan Chan, the one that walked by himself from China to India. And so we can start about him later on. Another story about this, what they call Journey to the West. Let's see here. Let me show you quick. Huh?
Screen. Share your screen.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, just short. It doesn't feel here.
Yeah.
Wukong.
Yeah, Journey to the West.
Oh, I
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, we've seen that one.
You see that?
When I was little, we used to watch Monkey King stuff all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that Zhuangzhang movie one, the Chinese one, when like international movie. I mean, yeah, it was a big budget.
Is it in English, Thai?
Yes. Here. Can you hear? Can you see, Anand?
I can see my own. The audio is not very audible. But that's why I just want to know if it's English, but I may explore it a little bit. So this is a similar, like the original story in Chinese about Bát Bạc, đi qua Tây Tạng, vậy không phải? Is that similar?
Yeah. Any version of this.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was kept for 500 years before Shan came. Yeah, and he rescued him out so that he could be his protector.
Mhm.
All right, so that's so, and there's a lot, and then there's a lot of version you can